Hello. All right, I'm late to the party. All three of my brothers have their own YouTube channels, and I've resisted it for various obvious and not obvious reasons. But I've decided to do, or to at least try to do one, because one of my brothers, John Frederick McCollum, decided to exit early. He taught at Santa Rosa High School in Santa Rosa, New Mexico for 27 years, and he taught at North Hollywood High at the Highly Gifted Magnet for nearly 25. So over 50 years of experience. It's the cat talking to me. And I kept hoping he would retire. I thought maybe he'd retire at 50 years experience, and then we could start a podcast, and we'd call the podcast Pop Quiz, because John liked popping questions on people, and it seemed like a good teacherly name for what I wanted to do. And so I've decided I'm going to attempt to reconnect with him, if only in an avocational way, through this. I'm going to really miss the opportunity to talk about things with him, because not only was he a very good brother and a very good man, he was a good friend, and I'm going to miss him a lot. And doing this will help me connect with what I loved about visiting with him. So for this very first installment, I'm going to tell you about something he advised me to do and that I followed, and we both found very successful, but we both really discovered it later in our careers. As teachers, we started out a little bit ahead of other people because we came from a teacherly family. So a lot of things that I think some teachers have to learn as they go along, we knew already. We had learned from the cradle, essentially. But this one technique, this grading technique, he first started using it and found himself experiencing great success with it, and so I did too. What he did was, when a paper was due, he would grade the paper in front of the student. Now, that may sound really difficult and uncomfortable, and I think for some people it would be. So it's not something that everybody can do. But it is extremely useful, because you can set it up to make grading a student's work a reward. And side note here, people who use grades or use writing to punish students, cut it out, please, please, please. That's really awful, because it means that when I start teaching my subject area, they think of my subject area as a punishment. And what really bugs me about using writing as a punishment is the teachers that require students to write something for them never read it. So really what they're saying is, well, you've broken one rule, now go out and plagiarize something for me. It's awful. So just don't use writing as a punishment. Find a better punishment. Find a more appropriate punishment. Find a less horrible punishment, okay? Anyway, so I would have my students write 4 short pieces a week, and then the next week those pieces would be due on a particular day, like a Tuesday. How I did this grading in front of them, I would have them bring the packet in as soon as they were ready for me to grade it. So there were kids that came to class ready to be graded, because this is what I did. I marked the paper in front of them. I noticed what worked in the paper. I paid attention to what they did right and how well they did it. I corrected any kind of little minor error right in front of them so they could see it and we could discuss it. And then they were free to go. They could leave. Now, this was only a few minutes that necessarily they garnered, but it absolutely made them feel so good, because people know time is precious. Even young people value time, especially time that's free for them to spend as they wish. So even if you can't release your students, you could have them do whatever they want at their desk if they're quiet. Now, This is what's great about this. It reduces the amount of time you have to grade work later on. And it allows students who haven't got the work quite finished for whatever reason, maybe they ran out of time, they were working on it, but they ran out of time, or whatever, they can work during the class hour while you're evaluating other students. And if they don't finish until the end of the class hour, or if you allow it till the end of the day, then you can grade theirs later without them watching. But here's the thing about that. It can cut your grading time after classes in half. And wow, what a difference that makes, because for a big part of my career, I had 30 kids in a writing class. That's a lot of work to get through. And when I started using one class a week to evaluate writing, I elevated its value in their eyes. I found that marks that I made before that didn't get paid attention to got paid a lot of attention to when it was done right in front of them. And they learned to correct picayune errors, like what to put quotation marks around and how to use commas, way faster. It was amazing. So John was right. He was right about when grading writing, it's good to do it in front of the students. And you can be right too. Now, I will go into different methods I use for grading students' writing and different methods I use for encouraging students to write, and all of that in future videos, perhaps. I make no promises. But I think in many ways, teachers can find themselves overburdened in the time department. And part of what I want to do by bringing John's and my expertise to this is maybe taking some of that time burden and some of the weight of teaching off teachers' backs, whether they're new teachers, which I really do value and love, or they're mature teachers like I was when John made this recommendation. And he was a mature teacher too when he started doing it. So there's always an opportunity to learn something. That's what's great about teaching. You know, being a student shows you what you know. Being a teacher shows you where you're ignorant. And if you embrace the fact that you can always learn something new, you can always employ something new, you too can grow with your students, then the job becomes much less a job, it becomes work worth doing. So, have a good day, you gorgeous people, and hopefully I'll have something to offer you tomorrow.